Hello, BookTube. Today I'm going to be discussing chapters 41, I think it is. Yeah, 41 to 80 in Njal Saga. This is a Penguin Black Spine classic. The translation here is Robert Cook, and the notes and all that are too. And I'm usually a guy who loves notes and footnotes. But there's a lot of detail in this saga where I'm finding with my first reading that I let go a little bit. This is something that really catches me. And I'm doing that also with a lot of the names. Now, this is my third year with Sagalong. I have read shorter sagas. This is the longest one I've read, or I'm in the process of reading. And so some of the names and some of the references are actually, I'm catching them, or they're flying around out here. I know there's something, and I'm not going to go and hunt down every one of them. If I was doing a reread of this, I probably would, and I would probably find it very fascinating. So, in the first part we read the first 40 chapters. You have a feud building between Gunnar, the very warrior type, and Njal, the very legal type of character. And a lot of this is driven by their wives. That sort of starts to shift here. The friendship between Gunnar and Njal is real and long-standing, and it continues that way, despite their wives. And that part of the feuding seems to shift away from the two men's families, because Gunnar's wife, who has a history of this sort of thing, now moves the feud to other neighbors. And she does that during a famine-like time in Iceland. She gets offended when the family won't help them out, and she sends one of the lower level members of the family group there out to steal some food. And he steals the cheese and lights up the larder, which is a building that's separated from the main house, I guess. And through a little bit of Sherlock Holmes type detective work, the pieces of cheese that are bought up, because the first thing you sell to get rid of incriminating evidence is stolen goods, and they outsmart the whole theft thing. And this precipitates a series of deaths and feud, and it's constant throughout this story. And there'll be interventions with advice. We can see a guy named Mord start showing up in here, and he's sort of the bad guy version of Njal with the advice. And Njal's advice tends to work out a little better from this perspective. And these things are settled at the Njal thing, or the courts. So Njal's sort of the slick lawyer. Gunnar's the active man of means and influence, and they team up. And then the neighbors aren't always thrilled about this. So these things are settled in court, but they always seem to spill back out. And we get a series of battles. And the big thing here is, for me, now I love the battle scenes. I think they're well done. Very exciting to read. You do see battle techniques and styles, and you even see strategy. So a couple times here you'll see Gunnar pick the best ground. He's outnumbered. They're always trying to bushwhack him, waylay him when he doesn't have his superior strength. And for some reason, maybe just in the course of life, you got to go out on your own sometimes, or with just a few friends. But he'll pick the best ground, and then he is an exceptional warrior, and he uses everything he can to his advantage. And the wounds are just horrific. It reminds me, if you read nautical fiction from the Age of Sail, you'll know that when the cannons go off, if you got your head taken off by a cannonball, you probably got pretty lucky. Because the worst death, well, you're not lucky, but you get my point. You don't suffer very long, that's for sure. The worst wounds are when the cannonballs hit the deck or the hull and big splinters or shards come off. And that's a pretty gruesome way to die. And they're projectiles. They're just like spears. But in this world, of course, you got halberd they discuss. You've got spears they discuss, shields. And then Gunnar's has a halberd that is better than most, let's say. Sort of has semi-mystical qualities. And weapons would gain reputations as well as their owners, or they gain reputation through their owners, or vice versa. But you have arms cleaved off and legs. One time a guy at the ankle, and another time there's a guy getting his leg chopped off and he's sitting there looking at it until he falls over. It's pretty graphic. You have Gunnar with the spear flinging bodies into the water. So he's a heroic, powerful man. But this never-ending conflicts, or series of conflicts, and interwoven conflicts with families and extended families, just never seems to end. And the one thing holding everything together and having trouble doing it is the law. And you would accept the decision of the all thing or the section courts or however and make agreements, and even though they were going to be broken later, it did seem to keep the lid at least partially on. But there's just too much violence. It's not going to keep working. And final, you got a battle at a ford in a river. You've got the most horrific battle of all at Gunnar's house. And that comes about because this constraining legal fiction, in a lot of ways, is broken by Gunnar himself against the advice of Njal. He keeps getting ambushed, so you almost wonder why he would be the guy who had to settle in part of these. But part of what he had to do after a previous ambush, and then he killed the people who were ambushing him, which, what else are you going to do? He is outlawed for 3 years, so he has to go in exile. Or, like they used to do, ostracize, and it would be for a term of so many years. And in his case, it's 3 years. And he's on his way to go. He accepts it. He follows Njal's advice. Njal say, if you do this, you go through the 3 years, you pay your penalty, you follow the law, you're gonna die an old man and peacefully, or whatever. Gunnar turns back. He's on his way down the ship. His brother's with him. His brother keeps going. Says, no, I'm following the law. And if you don't, I'm going to hear about you dying. And he's right. Gunnar goes back. He's not going to leave this land. He's just not going to do it. He is very powerful for it, however. And so things go on for a little while where nobody dares to do anything about it. So he's outlawed. He's outside the law. He no longer has a protection, which means if he's killed, there's not going to be a legal ramification for whoever does it. There may be other ramifications, but not going to be a legal one. And sure enough, eventually he doesn't have all his group of folks around him. He's home with his wife and his mother, and he's at his house, and they're sleeping upstairs in the loft. The opposing forces hear about it, and they come after him. Again, he's hugely outnumbered. Magnificent battle scene where they're thinking about pulling the whole building down, and he's shooting people left and right. He kills a couple. He wounds a lot more. The one bad apple keeps saying, why don't we burn him out? And the others are like, well, we don't do that. That's like the ultimate horror. We're not going there. We'll just keep fighting. There are rules. And Gunnar looks at his wife, his bowstring's been cut. He needs to have his mother braid and make a new bowstring out of his wife's hair. She said, nah. You slapped me about 10 years ago, and good luck. He gets killed. He gets overwhelmed by the force of numbers, but he goes down fighting hard, and so Grandma's not too happy. But it's the betrayal she sees by her daughter-in-law, but that is in her daughter-in-law's character. And then that's where we're done at chapter 8. So one of the two main characters in this saga, Gunnar, is now dead. So that makes me think we're going to focus a little more on Njal going forward. We'll have to see. And Njal's sons are in this. So we'll see what's happening. But I've enjoyed watching some of the videos. I'm a day late because yesterday I had to do some work with the Historical Society in my town. And then we finally get to, because everybody's vaccinated, get to go over and see my mother. So we did that. So like I say, I'm a day late on getting this out, and I apologize. But this is really, it's an archaic volume, and it's not a novel. You can tell pretty quick it's a little different, but it does read with a story arc and suspense, or even if you're not surprised by something, and sometimes you are. It's well done. So I'm enjoying this translation. I don't read the original, so I have no idea how faithful the translation is. But as a book, and for me to sit down and read an exciting story, this is going quite well. So I hope everybody's well, and thank you, BookTube.